Hey, what's up, guys? For you today, I got a very special deck, of course, Mischievous Supreme Kai. This is a deck that I hear a lot of people talk about. I'm talking about it being Tier 1 deck. You know, I haven't played too many games actually against the deck myself, but I know it's very strong. I generally get the idea of the strength of just the level 1, being able to, when entering combat, always shuffle cards back in your deck. You have Kabito Ally, which you are searchable with your level 1. That draws your bottom card of your discard pile every turn when you enter. And of course, this guy being really, really strong. And that's kind of the main strength of the deck, is that you're always kind of got a card up on your opponent because of that. You also have his name card over here, which I'll get to when we break the list down a little bit. But the main strength of the deck is that you're kind of always a card up on your opponent. And you use Supreme Kai to be able to recur the really, really strong black cards. Now, you may not like my list. You may think, you know, why am I running Dragon Balls? Maybe you're like, why don't you have all 7 Dragon Balls? Maybe my attack line isn't quite the numbers that you would run. Maybe my attacks aren't the ones you run. Maybe my blocks, my board. Really, I think there's probably a lot of variance to how you can build this. I personally really haven't looked at too many builds of Mischievous Supreme Kai. This is actually like one of the few decks that I really have not really checked out in terms of deck lists. I'm usually very active at looking at what other people build when the deck lists are posted, but this is just my hot take on it. But I'll get through my reasoning for each card and kind of maybe cards that are on my sideline. I actually haven't played any games on this yet. This is purely made for self-testing. I doubt that I would ever run this deck. It's just not really my style of deck. It's kind of, you know, I was really looking forward to Supreme Kai. I do think he's kind of a neat character in the show. He doesn't really get developed, but, you know, I liked his score kind of stack a lot, and they don't really reflect that too much with this one. I mean, he was more about kind of drawing some cards, which I guess he still does with the Kabito, but he definitely has some pretty strong MP levels. His 1 and 3 specifically, I think, are very, very incredible. I think the best decks for him right now, maybe I shouldn't say best decks, but if you're in black, I really feel like you have to do Camp 1. If you're in blue or red, I can see going like Unleashed build for 1 or 3, especially blue. Has really good potential with the 3. You know, the Ruthless Ball version. I could even see maybe like an Amplify. I don't know about Amplify, but maybe an Ascension kind of triple Vic. I could see being okay, but for the most part, we're just going to focus on this one today. So anyway, we'll go through my choices and why kind of they're in here. We have, of course, 3 Supreme Kai's Telepathy. You know, being able to control combat with Supreme Kai is really, really strong. It does suck its banish after use, but this card can completely wipe out an opponent, and you know, you enter combat, somebody enters on you. If you have a block, which is really easy to get a block in this deck, and put it back, you just kill their entire combat out. Really, really strong card. Next, we have Scout Maneuver at 2. Really just have it at 2. I have a hard time fitting this card in 3 a lot of decks. You really only ever want to see it mid-early game, for the most part. But we have it at 2. It is a nice card to have in your hand, and we have enough combat enders in the deck where you can kind of go in with this card in a block and just get what you wanted out of the combat. But being able to snipe your opponent's best like tech cards, or maybe against an anger matchup, killing their anger cards, or killing their blocks for defensive burst, really, really good card. Of course, we have Confrontation at 2, running it at 2 because we can throw them back in the deck, but killing your opponent's best card out of their hand, always good. We have Halt at 1 and Sphere at 1. I think that's kind of my main setup for any God-traded MP is going to be, most of them are kind of control-y. But Halt shuffling itself back in your deck gives you a little extra board hate on setups too. You can never get rid of this card. I hate this card so much. Should not have been made. But it's a super, super strong card. And of course, 1 Hero Sphere. Time. Supreme Kai with the VTP freezing is one of the few MPs that can put this back in his deck consistently. Very, very strong. Probably a big part of why you'd want to run Supreme Kai is because you can loop time still with him. Of course, we have his Ki Blast here. Now, this is another reason why you run him. I mean, his 2 name cards are both incredibly powerful. You can search a God-traded ally from any zone with this card. You know, again, your main bread and butter is going to be Kabito. Some people run Shenron. Some people run Popo. Generally not really do I see Popo, but Kami ally. Especially for ball decks, Kami bounce is really good. I mean, that was what Tommy Andre did with his Conflict Supreme Kai. He's able to bounce. And that, because I'm not running Ball Victory really, is why you're not really seeing some of the same choices maybe he would have if you were to check his list out, which I think I would highly recommend. And granted, I'm also running a different mastery, but this card is just really good. This, like I said, this feels like the Ball decks for him in general, regardless of what style, whether it's the red or the black, or maybe you're running blue for all I know. We have one Wall Breaker. I have this at a 1, mostly because if I do need it, it's there. Black doesn't have the best anger hate potential. If I need it and it gets in the pile, I can put it back in the deck with a level 1. If it's dead, I don't need to do anything with it, so it's a kind of a safe 1-of to me. Maybe you don't like it, maybe you like Energized Strike, maybe you don't think you need it at all, maybe it's the wrong card. I think it's a good test spot. For the right matchup, it's going to be really helpful. So that's the way I look at it. We got Devastating Blow to 1. Maybe Wall Breaker will turn into this. They have the Wall Breaker mostly for Hard Anger matchup, but I really feel like Hard Anger really isn't around too much. And we do have Black Trick Shot, which I'll get to in a second. But, this is a really good mirror, and I think this is a really, really strong card in general. I think being able to throw it back in, because it's a 1-of, you can throw it back in if you really need it for the right matchup, is why I think you can run it as a 1-of, maybe as a 2 if you want to get Wall Breaker. We have Sinister Choke at 3. Having board control is really good. Helps you kind of play a little more loose with the ball 7. Being able to take the ball take the ball 6 back if the physical deck gets it away from you. But really, really strong, obviously. And it's going to help you against your combative matchup. We have 1 Blinding. Maybe could go to 2. I'm going to try it at 1, mostly because Supreme Kai can shuffle back in your deck. So it's really, a lot of this, the theme of Supreme Kai is you can run a lot more 1 and 2-ofs because you can put cards back in your deck, which is another reason why even with OP attack at 1 here, of course being an ally searcher, because Supreme Kai can kick it back in his deck, he's one of the few MPs that can see a lot of these cards multiple times. So again, maybe my build has too many 3-ofs. Maybe some of my 1-ofs should be 2-ofs. We'll see. It's kind of just going to be dependent on what I think I'm playing against and how the deck runs. Black Defensive Burst, 3-of. I think it's a 3-of with physical decks rolling around. Knowing that you can always have this card in your deck with that level 1 recursion, having it at a 3, having a pretty solid line of blocks, having allies, having ball 6, you're going to make it really, really difficult for those decks. And they always have to be worried about this card. Of course, we have Black Trick Shot at 3. One of Black's few answers to anger, and unlike a lot of Mischievous decks that I generally play that actually do want to kind of slime some anger off the mastery, Supreme Kai you don't want to level with this deck specifically, which we'll get to as one of the weaknesses here, but super, super strong. In the right matchup, if this did fly off your deck, you can, probably not want to use it as endurance for certain matchups, just to be able to put it back in and draw it. But a really, really strong card. Can last up to 3 combats, which is really ridiculous, I think. I think the wording is, how it can end up 3 combats. Start of your next turn. So you start your next turn, of course, if you enter a combat, and you can really just get 2 combats, sorry, not 3. I'm thinking it's worded like Severing Punch. I got so many cards in my head right now, but it's still a very, very strong anti-anger card. And it's unpreventable damage. One nice combo that I saw Tommy run back in for the Tournament of Power was running an Android Efficiency Drill, which sets the damage to 5 life cards, and with this being unpreventable, it turns into another crit, just like Sin Choke. So really, really nice. We have Black Capture at 1, mostly for a ball matchup or slow deck. At 1, because again, if you want it back, you can get it back out of your pile if it hits the pile. Mostly, it's going to kind of depend on if you think your opponent's deck is playing Deflection Drill, is whether or not you're going to probably want to toss this, but it's going to be a helpful way to help deal with ball too. Because of ball, I also have Optic Blast at a 1. Again, kind of depend on the matchup. Maybe I don't need this card. I like it, especially with my ball 7 in the deck. At least the couple of balls I have here. It can be really interesting to let people take the ball. Again, it's mostly because we don't have a lot of crits, really. We have a couple of crit attacks, but Black really lacks like a raw crit. So I think this is a good add to have in. And for that same reason, Black Palm Blast can crit. It's a little bit of anger hate. It shuffles your deck, goes back in, or because it can make a really good one of, because it puts itself back in potentially. And if they let it crit, then you're getting crit. So, but over here I have Crushing Beam in one of these stacks here. I got a right here. So I got Crushing Beam, which could see and even potentially take that spot. I think maybe Palm Blast is better because maybe it does have less endurance, but being styled and being a little bit of anger control is really nice. But Crushing Beam could definitely maybe hit that spot. I think Crushing Beam is a good card to consider for Supreme Kai, but again, kind of spacing. So I suppose we'll see. We get out of the attacks here and we move into the block line. Now this is kind of subjective, I think, but I think Swipe has to go on pretty much every black control build. Super, super strong block. Killing your opponent's pile is so damn good, and the endurance one's great. Now, Speedy Dodge, I think this is a ridiculous card with Mischievous Mastery. If your opponent throws an attack out of their hand, you play this, you drop a card out of your hand, they're out 2 cards, and then you mastery it after for a 3-card swing. That alone is why I think this card should be in a lot of the control Mischievous black decks. I could see an argument for Black Corruption or Adaptation. I think Adaptation is really hard to put in a lot of times for people because it's an event. And again, it fights with these 2 cards that are phenomenal, and that's, I guess, the problem with like orange and black blocks, is they're all phenomenal. Corruption, of course, being if you're worried about anger decks, which is why, again, because of anger decks potentially being an issue, that's why we have Ball 2, Wall Breaker, Trick Shot, Dev Blow. We got these crit attacks. 3 black delay. I mean, I think any black control's got to run this. You get the right matchup. This card is just devastating. It's kind of the same aspect of Speed Dodge. You can drop so many cards out of someone's hand and a 1-2 action with this card and the Mastery. Black Easy Block, this is again subjective. If you're going more of the ball route and you want to do like Kami bouncing shenanigans, Black Halt is really good. Or just you want some ally tech, Black Halt is good, which that is one problem right now is we don't really have any ally tech other than crits and Black Declaration, which maybe it's enough, we'll see. But Easy Block here, of course. I mostly have it for the endurance and the anti-anger. I think that's respectable. Finger Block, I guess, could make it in here, but I think Finger Block just isn't as good as Easy Block personally right now. I think having a little bit of anger control in the block is really, really strong. We have Spring Kai here, of course. I've already talked about him, but get up to our drill line here and our setups. First off, we have Black Erasing Drill. This card, being that you have a free energy attack on your level 1, this card plus your level 1 just means that at any point you have Perceptive Mastery. You can kill a board card at will, which is really, really nice. Black, again, really doesn't have good board clearing, so this is going to be a really, really key drill in certain matchups that you're going to want out as quick as possible. We have Black Mischievous Drill. This, of course, is another limit. I should mention that all of your drills here are pretty much limit 1 drills, except for the efficiency drill here, but it's running into 1 anyway. This is another board clear. I mean, this could be kind of could be cut, could be not cut. I think it's definitely can change a matchup. You got to be selective with it. If you get it out early against like a Vegeta deck, it protects you against Prideful Challenge, which I think is a really big. I talk about Prideful Challenge a lot, just being a card that like you have to really worry about right now with a lot of people playing Majin Vegeta, and I think this is a great way to counter it. It's actually part of the reason this card. Once we get to Malas, I'll tell you another card that I was considering purely because of Prideful Challenge and a few other cards that are floating around. But we have Smooth Strode 1, standard black control card. Really great that, again, all these cards being one-ofs, if you do want to see them, you can shuffle them back in with Spring Kai, which is really awesome. You have Efficiency Drill at 1, like I said, combines really, really well with Trick Shot, making this now a 5-life card attack instead of a 4-life card attack. That's unpreventable. If people are playing Hiding Drill against you, all your attacks are always going to be coming in 5-life cards. It gets around Ox King, which is really, really nice. Supreme Kai turns your energy attack on level 1 into a 5-life card attack for free. Super, super powerful. And, you add it with things like Erasing Drill, and it's like, damn, your level 1 becomes a very, very noteworthy attack that people are really going to have to think if they want to try to, block it or not. Of course, our final drill that we have in this build, Black Absorption Drill. This is just very, very good control card. We're going to sit on one a lot, so not that we have to worry about this card getting, killed by leveling. However, this card, it's not as strong as it used to be. Thank God. But, just extra, top decking, extra control. You can set up your opponent to draw what they're going to draw with Mischievous Mastery, which is really nice. We don't really have too many Destroy effects in the deck, Ball 7 being the one. Outside of the Mastery, it looks like. I don't have any others, but I think it's still respectable. Either way, respectable splash in any Mischievous deck. It could change, but I think it's still worth running, even though it can't top deck non-stealth cards anymore. Next we have the setups, which I guess we'll start with After Image, which I put up here purely because of mat spacing. But we have After Image Technique. This is a great card. I'm going to just keep talking about Tommy as like the main guy that I see running this card a lot, and I think Kelly Dennis also is a big fan of this card too. It's just the biggest text fucking smash ever of just a bunch of effects. It does so many stupid things. It helps you put your balls back in your deck. It helps you give, let's say if your opponent got black captures on you or something, you can take care of those. You can, get rid of, I don't know, you can stop your opponent from balling out. You can just play it on as a board card if you want an extra block in an aggro matchup. I think the biggest strength of this, though, is shuffling your own ball 7. Top decking your own ball 7. You shuffle this in. Very, very strong card. It's just like Black Declaration, really. It's like a third Black Declaration, which is kind of why you can run Black Declaration at 2 in these balls, is because this is just like a kind of a better Black Declaration, kind of, situationally. It's kind of like Halt, in a sense, but not quite. You just got a lot of utility out of this card. How you play it is really going to depend on the matchup. Whether you keep it in your hand for the parenthetical, or if you play it on the board. I think for the most part, it's mostly going to be parenthetical. But again, against aggro, putting on the board isn't too terrible. And it isn't banished after use, so if you do see a ball 7, or you do want a Supreme Kai back in your deck. And that's a big thing with Supreme Kai, I think. A lot of non-banish after use cards, definitely, again, 1 or 2 ofs can really, really go a long way. Of course, we get down to my setup choices, other setup choices. Now this I definitely think can play number-wise, depending on who you are and what you want to do with the deck. Black Searching Technique at 3, I think this card is just too strong, too valuable. If you see this early against the right deck, you will enter with this card purely to just snipe out their really good cards that are going to be hurting your board. Whether that be Prideful Challenge, whether that be Red Energy Blasts, Orange Stare Downs, whether it's the big anger cards, or maybe it's the Ball Searchers, maybe it's Spheres, maybe it's blocks, and then aggro matchup so you can land your D-burst better. Maybe it's you want to kill their tech cards. Really just going to depend. I mean, again, with the same thing with the Scout, but this card is just so valuable. I think seeing it as quick as you can is the whole reason I have it at a 3. Now, Black Power Up at 2, mostly because it's not banished after use, and we do have Telepathy and a Blinding in here. You could run this at 3. I think it's kind of just dependent on what you feel you're playing against and how much you really think you need this card. I think just at 2 you can get away with it though, because of your level 1 here. But combat control is just the main thing you want to be doing in this deck. You don't really care about staying in combat long. You really just kind of want to only be in combat if you're going to searching, you're going to scout, you're going to toss an unpreventable, or you're going to just toss a trick shot then end combat, or just like say laugh at people who are in PPV decks. Your combats are really kind of pick and choosing, and you have a lot of lenience on when you want to enter. Of course, Black Declaration, one of the few cards in the deck that can deal with board. Like I said, we have Mischievous Drill, we have Erasing Drill, which are situationally effective. Black Declaration gets around a lot of things. I know people are complaining about Hercule so much, so just run Black Declaration. But also helps you loop your ball 7, your ball 2. Combos with Kami, in case you want to shuffle your Kami away so you can go grab ball 6 in a certain matchup. Or maybe your opponent's a ball deck, you don't want them to play ball 7 or 2, and you just want to get those balls out with Kami, which that is a combo with Kami right there. Against ball decks, being able to play the balls out so they can't play them. Again, I think this is just a really great card. And so it's at a 2 because it's not banished after use, and the endurance is really gravy on it. again, the entire matchups are going to just depend on, what you're looping is just going to depend on your matchup. Now we get to my choice. I decided to run some Dragon Balls. I didn't run all 7. I'm just not... For me personally, I don't really want to take the time to find the room for them, and I wanted to run all this other stuff. I really don't think you need all 7, but obviously all 7 can be good. I think you could still run all 7 in a Mischievous build and it'd be fine. Conflict, of course, having its benefits, but I feel like, generally speaking, you don't really get the full benefits of Conflict's crit threshold all that often with the Supreme Kai. Maybe you do. I guess this is coming from a guy that is mostly just watched the deck being played here and there and looking at lists and kind of getting consensus with other people, but we're going to start off, I guess, with the ball 2. The big part of why I run this card too, one of the big weaknesses of the deck is getting stuck on the level 2. And how do you get there? Well, maybe somebody Clash of Wills you, maybe somebody digs you up, but the level 2 is by no means as superior as this level 1 for the most part. The level 1 just selectively, when entering, always getting to choose 2 cards, whereas you have to choose the cards in combat. You have this attack that you can get stage locked on. This does let you set up your opponent's draw, I suppose, if you're going to enter on them, but for the most part, you really just want to sit on 1, because this also has the ally tutor for free. You getting dug up also kind of, makes you lose your drills. Use your drills here. So you can always ball 2 yourself, but having extra leveling control, being able to keep people off the powerful levels that they might get set to is really nice. Not as effective against Vegeta as you'd want, but still, I think, worth running it just for the utility alone, and it'll help you out a lot against those MPPV decks. Now, because I run this, that might be a reason to just cut the Wall Breaker entirely and toss in toss in another Dev Blow. I suppose we'll see with testing. Ball 6. We have Ball 6 here. Ball 6 is mostly for the stage gain. With a lot of physical decks being around, it's a good ball. If you should want to combo Kami out of play with Declaration, you're able to put Ball 6 into play. It is just a huge detriment and obstacle for physical beats, along with just the D-burst looping. I think it's really, really strong to put it in here. It just really makes the physical matchup really hard to win. We have Namek Ball 7 to round it out. Of course, super, super powerful Dragon Ball effect. I hate this card. So strong. You loop it back in with Black Declaration, After Image Technique, and this just brings more to the longevity of Supreme Kai. If you're not getting enough cards back with just your level 1 alone, you just throw this card out, and it's really, really strong. Plus, playing your own helps stop other people from playing it before you. So again, big thing with this deck is a lot of 2-ofs, a lot of recursion. Most of the 3-ofs are banished after use cards other than our blocks. Maybe our block line could change a bit. I'm not really sure what I would throw in other than these ones. I could see maybe Black Stop being in here, but we want to try to avoid effects that raise your own anger, which we don't have a lot of. The Dev Blow, I think, being the one exclusive with Palm Blast would be the 2 cards I see that actually raise your anger. But again, I think this is a really, really powerful deck just by the list alone. I could see other cards making in here. Of course, I have a list of considerations, which I'll kind of run through real quick just to close this out. We have, at first, we have Battle Pausing. Now, some people don't like this card. I think this card's really cool. Some people love this card. Not as good with Mischievous being a big thing, but just to add to the fact that you can just constantly pick out and cycle the right cards that you want for the matchup. Whether it's you want to, and on top of it, with the amount of dead cards we have in the hands, being able to just pitch one out of your hands to maybe help reuse Time's Worst tool or a block, or maybe, you see one of these cards at the pile. I think a big thing with this deck is going to be knowing when to use Endurance on the cards, because in certain matchups you're really going to want to just get that card back in the deck so you can play it. But this kind of could maybe help you when you're letting those cards hit the pile. We'll see. Black Teamwork, this could make a really good 1-of or 2-of. Of course, this is kind of a game-closing card, depending on the matchup. I think that's purely because you can run it at 1-of effectively with Supreme Kai. It's kind of in the same vein of Optic Blast, Palm Blast, and Capture, except it doesn't replace itself. But I think this definitely could be a card that could make a cut in Black Reflection. This is another good, like, really good card. I just mostly, where do I find the room right now? I think a lot of these other cards are consistently better. This card can do a lot, though, especially when you combine it with Searching Technique and Scout Maneuver. It can be very good. We have Deflection Drill at 1. This drill, definitely kind of meta-dependent. It's mostly thinking about what you're going to play against. But I could see it making a cut in. Puzzler, of course. I think this card is just baller. This could definitely make a spot in. I don't know where yet. I think, again, the weakest card I think right now would be probably the Wall Breaker. But we'll see. We have Crushing Beam. I've already talked about this card. I think this would just kind of compete with the Black Palm Blast here, because they both do very similar effects, but could definitely maybe make it cut in. Probably won't. Of course, we have a third power-up, kind of just depending on the matchup, and a second Blinding Energy move. Those are really the main cards that I would consider adding in that aren't already in at multiple copies here. Oops, I had to pick up that card there. But I think just by purely looking at the list, a lot of potential. I suppose I should go over the allies real quick to finish this out. Like I said, I have Kami. This kind of helps you slow game. He's a God Trade ally. Just passively, again, more cards in the deck, goes with the theme. Oxygen's going to shut down any of those like Ruthless decks, a lot of those Vegeta decks, just killing their modifiers. Just makes it really, really hard for them to do anything. He does kind of work counterintuitive to Ball 6, so it's going to kind of depend on the matchup when you want to play him. Corrin is just really stupid, you know. Even if you are finally getting hit by people, if you're not drawing blocks, you have him out. You can just redirect stage damage to allies, take a life card or two here and there, rejuve it immediately. He might be counterintuitive to the level 1 and Kibito, you might want certain cards to be still in the pile. I suppose we'll see with play, but I think he just adds to like the live long goal, and of course Kibito. Like I said, a lot to us. Maybe some of these will get bumped to 3. Maybe some of these will get bumped down to 2. Maybe even some of these Banish After Use cards we'll see bumps down to 2. But I think it's a really powerful list. There might be a couple other cards that you feel that I should be running. If you do, maybe let me know. I think a lot of it's just kind of direction that you want to take in the deck. Like I said, you could run 7 balls in this. You could run no balls. We'll definitely kind of change up what you're going to put in the deck. Tug of War, of course, being a great card if you're not running allies, but no matter what, I think you're running allies. So, you know, I think this has relatively decent answers. I think the thing it has the least answers to would be Ally. Maybe Mill. But we do have some board clear answers. We can take some of the best cards out of their deck and recur our best cards here. But let me know what you think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Thanks.